This is not going to make previous biographies and studies of Mencken obsolete. As I said in my introduction, it tells us things about him that we had not hitherto known, but it doesn't tell us anything basically different. What it adds, it adds in detail, not in any major revelations.
There's another thing that caught my eye. You say the story goes that he once read his own obituary in the Sun Files, meaning the Baltimore Sun Files,
yes.
Approved it, and directed that a single sentence be added at the end, quote, "As he got older, he got worse." And then you say this was undoubtedly true. What did you mean by that?
Oh, there's no question that he became very crotchety and stubborn and set in his ways. He must not have been an easy person to get along with. He was one of the great humorists of the time, and I think he was this in person as well as in print. For the most part, I don't think he ever lost his good humor or his ability to relate to people and his generosity and politeness to them. But he did become set in his ways. That there were certain things that he believed, and the rest of the world believed otherwise, which meant that the rest of the world was wrong and he was right. He just became crotchety, as I said, and set in his ways.
You said he was a conservative.
Yes.
Is there conservative dogma that he writes about that becomes Mencken generated, or is he just comments from a conservative point of view, or do you find thought?
He just comments from a conservative point of view. If you could reduce his political philosophy to a sentence or two, he was in total agreement with Thomas Jefferson that the best form of government is that which governs least. Mencken thought that government had no business whatever intruding into the lives of its people. The government existed for two things: to repel foreign invaders and to maintain domestic order and tranquility. And this was the source of his hatred of Franklin D. Roosevelt, who came along and created the CCC, the NRA, the NLRB, and all these other government agencies, the Social Security Act, welfare, and so on. And all of this to Mencken was anathema, because he didn't believe the government had any business in such areas.
You said when we started this that he was very German, and I'm not sure you said it that way, but that meant a lot to him. What does that mean to you? How do you translate that so we can understand what that means?
Mencken's whole background and culture was German. 3 of his 4 grandparents were German. His father and mother were German. He grew up, and incidentally, in those days, a great deal of the Baltimore population was German. He grew up absorbing German ideas and German culture. The Germany that he loved, I think that, an important distinction has to be made here, was the Germany of Bach, Beethoven, Schubert, Brahms, German beer, this sort of thing. So it was hard for him to feel, both in World War I and again in World War II, to feel any strong anti-German sentiments. At the same time, I think it would be wrong to say that he was pro-Nazi. Nothing in his writings gives the slightest indication that he approved of what Hitler was doing in Germany. It has to be admitted that he never wrote anything against it, and he should have, of course. Why he didn't is a mystery that, no writer about him, no one who knew him has ever been able to explain.
You point out, and as I look through your book to find it, there is no entry around December the 7th, 1941.
That's right.
There is no entry around VE or VJ Day.
That's right.
How come?
Again, I don't know. There is an entry where he talks about the end of the war. I don't know whether it was VE Day or VJ Day. My impression it was a VE. But the matter with which the entry deals is the noise that all the people were making around the neighborhood while he was working, celebrating the end of the war.
Did he ever talk about war?
Well, he talks about it here and there in the diary, yes. But mainly to the extent that it has had very little effect on him. It hasn't changed his way of life very much. Or, conversely, that it's inconveniencing him in this way or that.
Last question.
Yes.
What impact has Baltimore had both on you and on him? Can you tell us something about Baltimore that's different from other places that you know?
Let me try to quote, or not to quote, I can't do that, but to give you some idea of what Mencken said, and I'll go along with it. He felt that it retained, a southern charm and leisureliness of life, along with something of the vigor and activity of the North. He felt that it was a great city to live in, to grow up in, that it had charms that no other city had.
This is what the diary of H.L. Mencken looks like, and it's edited by Charles Fletcher. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Charles Fletcher is the author of 2 previous books and has written articles and reviews for a number of publications, including The Critic, The Catholic World, and The Baltimore Sun. The Diary of H.L. Mencken was published in 1989 by Alfred A. Knopf. Every weekend, Book TV brings you an encore presentation of C-SPAN's Book Notes program. Encore Book Notes airs Saturdays at 7 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern here on C-SPAN 2. And next week, you'll hear from Paul Hendrickson on his book, The Living and the Dead. It looks at the role of Defense Secretary Robert McNamara in the Vietnam War. You can find complete schedule information on our website, booktv.org. Click on Encore Book Notes to find video clips of upcoming programs and highlights from C-SPAN's author interview series. 48 hours of non-fiction books on TV. You're watching Book TV on C-SPAN 2.
Next on Biography on Book TV, A. Cleveland Harrison discusses his experiences as a GI during World War II, which he writes about in Unsung Valor, published by the University Press of Mississippi. After that, Jeff Shara talks about Gone for Soldiers, a novel of the Mexican War. Tomorrow evening on Book TV, Stuart Onan describes a devastating 1944 fire at a circus in Hartford, Connecticut, and the impact it had on the community as one of the deadliest disasters in our nation's history. Then, Yoram Kaniuk talks about his biography of the commander of the Exodus, a ship that transported Jewish immigrants to Palestine after World War II. And later, former presidential candidate Alan Keyes addresses the Christian Booksellers Association on the intersection between politics, culture, and religion.
You're watching Book TV.
What lectures that I give, what television shows that